Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are across this great wide world of ours. I'm going to do a video on the Bureau of Indian Affairs. I've been doing one about once a week, and the goal is I've had a few people reach out to me and say, why are you pursuing this? And what is your purpose? And what is the goal? What are you trying to achieve on this? And part of the reason I'm doing this right now is this is in an election year. And what I'm trying to do is bring to the forefront about how the Bureau of Indian Affairs has granted, and I'll be the first one to say this, but there'll be others that say has changed. But the Bureau, for the most part, has been the Bureau since the 1834s. And it was first under the War Department under John C. Calhoun, and later was moved into the Interior Department in the 1830s. And so for that reason, it has now been in the Interior Department for most of the 1830s. But the point that I want to make out of this is, even though the Interior Department is under or is in charge of the Bureau, the point is with the BIA is there really has the premise or the issues concerning Indians' hopelessness, Indians' involvement with the BIA, especially not necessarily so much on the tribal level or tribal leadership level, but with the normal indigenous people. Predominantly, there's more issues, I believe, out west, where everybody was forced following the Indian removal of the 1830s, and for more what became part of Oklahoma, which was at one time called the Indian Territory, where all of the Native Americans were moved into that area, and the tribes more or less established normally in the what I call the eastern part of Oklahoma, and then transformed into the state of Oklahoma because of the fact that the white leadership at the time, and predominantly, I hate to always say the white leadership, but predominantly that was what was in charge at this time, forced a land grab to have this land settled by white European settlers, and settlers after when the Indian Territory became part of Oklahoma, but there was also contentions that eastern parts of Oklahoma were intended, or the tribes there intended to form their own league or their own state, but the push by many of the senators and congressmen, as well as the administrations that occurred in the late 19th, early 20th century, really put a kibosh, and kibosh means kibosh means like a stoppage on having their own Native American land, because what it really forced was another issue again, because it was under the BIA, Bureau of Indian Affairs, another issue where people were not able to understand the BIA. And there again, since there were always numerous trees broke, the issue of calling this the BIA really leaves a sour taste in many Native Americans. And then we have the Dawes Act, the Indian Removal Act. 1880s, we have the Dawes Act. 1830s, we have the Indian Removal Act, and all other contentions that follow, like I said, with parts of eastern part of Oklahoma, with the tribes that were there trying to form their own state separate from the western part of Oklahoma. So, and that's why the contention with me is that Oklahoma is that really weird shape to it, because of the fact that the eastern part of the state was really reserved for tribes, and then the western part of that became open to white settlement and more forced settlement on indigenous people in that eastern part of that conflicts that would emerge. So what comes out of this, excuse me, what comes out of this is another mistrust by the BIA Interior Department. And it's been my contention that since this is an election year, it's something that we're looking well into the 21st century. It's something of looking at would be very behooving of either the Biden administration or possibly the Trump administration, either party that takes the lead, Republican or Democrat Party, whoever takes ownership. And part of that ownership, I mean, is like the House wins, if the House becomes Republican or the House becomes Democrat, or the Senate becomes Republican or the Senate becomes Democrat. I think this is an issue that needs to be looked at by the House, the administration or executive branch, as well as the judicial. And remember, we go back to Marshall's law, or Marshall's who sided with the Cherokee concerning, their removal off of lands that were in the Tennessee Valley and forced onto reservations west of the Mississippi. So, and really the initial part of this was the Marshall's courts, which supported the rights of Cherokee Nation's right of indigenous people, but then the Jackson administration did not follow the order of the Supreme Court, which, and I'm not a scholar or an expert in impeachable offenses, but believe this would be most of an impeachable offense, because the fact of the matter is Jackson did not follow the order of the Supreme Court and created his own law, and nobody, neither party that existed at the time in the 1830s, nor the Supreme Court. Really, I think that the Supreme Court really didn't have any jurisdiction, but the Congress, which was made up of the Congress, was the House of Representatives and the Senate, could have really pushed the matter forward by saying Jackson that could have been an impeachable offense, and for him to follow the order of the Supreme Court, which in essence he didn't. And like I said, it creates this more what I call historical drama with, like I said, with the Trail of Tears, and we have the Dawes Act. We have issues when Oklahoma, parts of the tribes want to form their own nation. The powers to be, the House of Representatives and the Senate, refuse the offer of it. So we get more of these issues. And all this is under the jurisdiction of the BIA, or Bureau of Indian Affairs. And it's my contention that the BIA should be abolished or reformed. We do have 12 regional offices. I think it should be streamed down to 4, and that most of the decision process should be made west in areas like Normal, Oklahoma, or somewhere in that area, since the majority of the tribes exist west of the Mississippi currently, And the fact that because of the matter is we go from the Atlantic to the Pacific, and there's tribes all the way across the whole northern continent, as well as and I don't want to forget tribes, native indigenous people that exist in Hawaii, as well as indigenous people that exist in Puerto Rico, as well as Alaska. So, and I throw all that in here too, as well as Puerto Rico, because we have indigenous people. And the way the government is creating this, and my understanding, like Puerto Rico is a Commonwealth, I think they have a little bit more jurisdiction than a lot of the tribes. The tribes get funding from the government, and their jurisdiction falls under the federal government and not necessarily their own jurisdiction, which in my contention has always been that they should be separate entities and not rely upon the government, and they have their own police force and their own system without involving the federal government. So it's the same thing with incorporated cities, such like Cincinnati, Nashville, that they create their own system of autocracy, democracy, and then go forward on that. So anyway, these are some food for thoughts that I think that need to be addressed. This is, like I said, this is a good time. It is an election year. I'm trying to get some traction on this to bring this to the foresight so that there is a political debate concerning this, so that we can move on and to create a new system which abolishes the BIA and creates a new form of representation for the indigenous people. So anyway, please like and subscribe to my channel. Feel free to reach out to me at bthomasmillerpsych@gmail.com. Remember, I also have books. The recent book I published, Water Quality on the Reservation. I also have History of the Native Americans, 15th and 19th century. Also, Don't Buy the Lottery Ticket, which coincides with the use of casinos and the diminishing return on the casinos, which I've got a book on that for the reservations. Anyway, feel free to like and subscribe. Feel free to reach out to your comments, and hope to talk to you soon. And have a great day. And I will probably do a video sometime over the weekend. Thanks again. Have a great day. Bye.